Radio Zero.
It's Radio Zero with Rick and Rose. Saturday, November 4th. Wow, it's Saturday, November 4th, 2023. 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. The last 5 p.m. of 2023. That where the sun will be out. How about that?
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah.
Because we're losing an hour. No, we're gaining an hour tonight.
That's right. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify. Go to radiozero.us. We live stream on Facebook on the Radio Zero page and the Poster Children page on Twitch at PCJCUSA and on the Poster Children YouTube channel. Usually we try to live stream on Fridays, every other Friday at 5 p.m. Central, but today we had to shift everything over a day.
Because I was playing in a gong orchestra.
That's right, the Gong Show.
The Gong Show.
You can patronize us at patreon.com/Radio Zero. Thanks to everyone who is patronizing us. That's it.
Thank you for listening. I when you started it, I was like, I'm trying to relax. Like, I'm not a better living through chemistry type person, but I've had to take an Advil like pretty much every day this week, just because I have like headaches, and spots in front of my eyes, but that's because of tension, I'm sure. So I was like, now I have a minute like to just try to relax myself. And so I looked at myself on here and I was like, I had my eyes shut. It was on. The camera was on. Very embarrassed.
Bag Boy, Dairy King told me that you should take Tylenol for headaches and Advil for other stuff. I've never heard that.
Tylenol for headaches? We heard it from the doctors yesterday, didn't we?
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean that's that
Advil's
bad for, or ibuprofen.
Oh, well, I should take Tylenol then. I don't know. Like, I'll have to try that because
Tylenol's more dangerous, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can experiment lots because I expect lots and lots more headaches to happen.
I take both.
Oh, you take the one that's got both of it in it?
Yeah, but usually not for a headache. I'll take if I have like injured myself multiple times in the past few months. So when I have terrible pains, yeah.
I had a headache for a whole month, and then I had breast cancer, and my dad died, and then I hurt myself shaving, and I hurt myself. I got a new toothbrush. It's been like some of the conversation here in the house. But Bag Boy should know about what you do when your head hurts, shouldn't he? Are we allowed to talk about that?
I don't know.
Well, I got a call yesterday, like halfway through the day, from my son.
2 days ago, but
2 days ago. It seemed like only yesterday. 2 days ago, like sitting at work with my child in the hospital. He was calling, and he's in like one of those head brace things. Like had his head back and stuff like that. He's asleep upstairs. We can talk about him. And he's like, I'm in the hospital, and I'm like, is this a joke? Because he's in film and television or whatever that major is called. And I thought maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was some sort of joke that they were playing, but it wasn't. It wasn't a joke. I said, is there anybody there with you? And then these cute lady doctors and nurses like took the phone and said, hi, you're his mom. I just, we're going to tell you what happened. And, and it's unclear what happened, but we know what came of it, which was, head trauma. So
it's got a concussion, but
yeah.
There were some other things they tested for they were a little worried about, but then they looked through it all and he seems okay.
But what a that was a very impressive hospital. And they when I asked what after they told me all this stuff, I said, can we come there? And he said, oh, certainly. And I'm like, okay, we're 3 hours away, so it's going to take us a while. And they go, oh. And I go, what hospital is this? And they go, oh, this is Northwestern Memorial. you're talking to the King of England here. Like it was like Northwestern Memorial, and I was like, I knew at that point that he was in good hands. And then I looked it up. Like I was trying to look. That thing where you try to look up something, you're so freaked out. Somebody sent you an email or something, and you've been waiting for this email. And then you're so freaked out, and so you go to load it, and that's what I was doing on my phone, like trying to find out like which hospital, in the hospital rankings, Northwestern Memorial was, because you figure it's up pretty high. It sure is, it's higher ranked than Carl here in the cornfields. Anyway, nice hospital. Don't have anything bad to say about it. Sparkly floor.
Yeah. It was. For a hospital experience, it was good. As good as a hospital experience can be.
I have to say, I just came from Capoeira, right? And I told Contramestre, what happened to Dow, and he just wanted to know. He was like,
wrong kid, but yes.
Not Dow, sorry, Graham. And he wanted to know. He's like, what did Rick say? He wanted to know how, if you were mad. He wanted to know like what kind of a. Like how does a father react to this? Because the kid was, we
don't know.
Yeah, we don't know why it happened, but either does he. Let's put it that way, right? He doesn't know what happened either, so nobody knows what happened. So yeah, he wanted to know how you reacted, and I was like trying to explain how you reacted, and you were just, you're just like calm down. Like that's something that I'm usually told in capoeira too. Calma. You were like, don't upset him. And, what did you think of all that? What did you think of all this?
It was upsetting and worrisome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as far as things go, it turned out as good as possible. It was not, when you get a phone call like that, it's you imagine the worst. And yeah, at the time it looked scary on the phone on FaceTime, but then it turned out that was all just precautionary stuff. So he was just had a concussion.
Andy Lester and Conan is listening. Hi, Conan. He says, "Oh wow, hi P Kids," and then Andy is saying, "Conan, shh, it's a medical update and hospital evaluation." So no, that's okay. Now they're having a fight. Conan says, "How dare you shush me, sir? This is the internet." That's cute. That's adorable.
No shushing on the internet.
Yeah, there is, but so well, he's been sleeping all day, but he's okay. It's a good, guys, don't have a fight. You can't, gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room. So we drove up there and yeah, we hung out in the ICU for a little while, all three of us, even though that was against regulations. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And then we left. I don't even remember when we stayed at Carla's house. The guys are having a fight on our. That's kind of cool. I encourage that. Then we came back the next.
Got White Castle.
Oh, that's right. That was good. This is all going to be about food. We got White Castle.
But then we went back to the hospital thinking that he was going to get discharged in the morning, and then we sat in there for
hours
without eating.
Yeah.
He got to eat.
Yeah. But he did eat. That was cool.
Yeah.
We got to see him eat.
Yeah, was holding down food and everything, so it all worked out.
They came. All right, so let me see if I can do this to you. They came in and did they did a like cognitive test for him, his short-term memory test. So they said, I'm going to give you the name of somebody, and then I'm going to ask you to do a whole bunch of things, and I'm going to ask you the name and address afterwards. Okay. So I was like, ooh, and I was watching this, and I mean, I'd like to say that Derek King here has as his former history teacher said, brilliant mind. He is a brilliant mind, but has an interesting way of expressing or of showing it sometimes. Anyway, right? So, anyway,
wow. Okay, yeah,
and I'm sure he's not listening to this. But if he was, he could come down and argue with me. But so they said, okay, so the address is Andy Baker, 42 Market Street, Chicago, Illinois. They said that. And then they said, how are you feeling? When was your birthday? So when's your birthday, Rick?
I don't like talking about my birthday. October.
Okay. Make up a date.
October 31st.
Okay. 2023. Right? Okay. They asked him, see, I can't even remember all the things they asked, but then they asked him this one's a tough one. This was the hardest one. Say the months of the year backwards. Oh, and then you made a joke out of it. You were like, come on, say them backwards.
July can do Wyludge.
Okay, say them backwards.
Lerpra.
So anyway,
is April.
All right, so you
really
can't.
hard.
You can't,
no,
right?
I can't. It's really
you
difficult.
can't. December, November.
Oh, okay.
Like
I
that.
get it.
That's the way they wanted it. December, November. Let's see if you can do it. October.
September, August.
Yeah.
July, June, May.
You're a little faster than he was.
April.
It's good.
March.
Mm-hmm.
February.
Yeah.
January.
Yeah, February and January were rough for him at that point. Like he was trying to figure them, and he was having trouble. But he and I think he stopped before January. I think he got January and February. He got them all in order. He did it all right. But then they asked him what was the name of the person and the address. Can you remember?
Andy Baker, 42 Market Street.
Yeah, very good. So you obviously haven't. Where? What city?
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh, so you because you weren't listening. Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah.
Chicago, Illinois. It was Market Street.
That's why.
He remembered the name, and he said 442, which was interesting. He said 42, but he couldn't remember Market Street, and the street was Market Street. I remember that, but I don't remember the name. So it's interesting. But yeah, so I guess I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've had those memory tests, and I always do really well on the memory tests, but I still feel like I'm having problems with, I feel like my memory is getting worse. I think it is. Well, yeah, that just happens as you get older. And then also my ability to find words, word finding. But the test they give you for being a demented old man is not the the test that finds out that stuff. So it's like you're great. Your memory's fine. No problem. There's no problem with you, Rick. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, like when I had at school they were like having like they had hearing tests, like the auditory people. Conan's still picking a fight with Andy Lester. That's like, don't be offended, you guys. But you know what that's like? That's like, who's the guy from Facebook again? Picking a fight with the guy from Tesla.
Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk.
Yeah, you guys can be like the Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk fighting of poster children forum. What?
Oh no!
Aren't those the guys who were fighting?
Yes. I got lost because I thought you kind of switched channels right in the middle of a sentence. I think.
No, you're just not paying attention.
I was paying attention, and then you started talking.
What was I talking about? I forgot.
Exactly. See, that's the problem. Is you
maybe it's not you. Maybe it's me.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not losing your marbles. Maybe I'm taking your marbles.
That's right.
Is that going to be the next Richard Norman Normal Valentine? I'm not losing my marbles. You're taking M. Apostrophe M.
Taking my marbles.
No, just I'm not losing my marbles.
No,
You're
I'm
taking
just
them.
Writing this down for the title of the episode.
Okay. All right. So why don't you tell us about your new single, Richard Normal Valentine?
Yeah, I got another single out. Song called Alive, and a song Out of Control by Rick Ocasek and Greg Hawkes, right?
And you're drowning in the picture.
Not drowning.
Are you being pushed? Is your head? That's like the toilet bowl picture from the Big Lebowski.
It wasn't supposed to look like a toilet bowl, but I think it does, doesn't it?
No, I was trying to figure. What is it?
It's the bathtub. I took a picture. I wanted a picture underwater. I wanted
How
an
did
underwater
you do
picture.
That? How did you do it?
It was a lot of work, actually.
It should be.
It's a lot more difficult than you would think.
Why were you in the bathtub? Why is the picture underwater?
I thought that was a good. I use water metaphors all the time.
Okay, so what's the song about? In what way is it about the bad things that I've done in my life to you? taking your marbles.
It is. It's about. It's not about you, but it is about like when you play marbles and then someone takes all your marbles. That's what it's about.
It's not about you. It's about somebody else's wife.
Dude
It's about
steals marbles. It's so crazy. You're so crazy.
Okay, all right, but well, if it's not about me, who is it about?
You're terrible.
I'm joking, and actually I haven't listened to the whole thing. Oh, Jody's not going to go to this meeting. This is funny. Okay, sorry. Go on.
It started out, I did it on so I have a Pro 1 synthesizer. It's a monophonic sequential circuit synthesizer, actually, that I bought from Mel.
Can you make the noise? This is dude talk.
Oh, no, I can't.
Okay. So tell us about the song, and it started out with dude talk.
Sorry,
Rick
the
Valentin.
synthesizer. So the Pro 1 synthesizer, it was well known as the synth that Vince Clarke used on the Yazoo. Yeah, like to me it's Yaz because they had to change the name of the band in the United States. And my copy of the first Yazoo record actually has a sticker over the name Yazoo
Really?
on the cover.
I don't even think I knew that.
Yeah, because there was a band.
When did you find that out? Oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I knew it in 1982 or whenever I bought this
cool.
record. It
Where
was.
did you get it from?
Ooh, maybe Wax Tracks. I might still have the plastic on it. Anyways, he used a Pro 1, like all those Yaz songs. So I'm going to call them Yaz.
Can you sing one of the Yaz songs? How does it go?
It's like any yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I'm trying to think of the one on. But anyways,
Okay.
so I set up the Pro 1. It's a monophonic synthesizer, and I made it play a riff, and then I worked a song around it, and it was just like those Yaz songs, and like Eurythmics, they're kind of like soul, or like they've got like gospel-y elements, and so I kind of did that, and then it sounded too much like Yaz, so then I replaced that synthesizer riff with a bass riff.
Oh yeah, I heard it. So it's fuzzy bass. Did you use my bass?
No,
Why not?
I have a 6-string bass for guitar players who.
Oh yeah, for guitar players who hate their wives. Oh, see, yeah, Conan Neutron says, I was just reminded that I had the Richard Normal Valentine stuff in my Bandcamp cart, and I forgot to push purchase.
Nice. Thanks a lot.
The day after
Oh.
Bandcamp Friday.
So now I'm only going to get
2 cents.
Yeah, and then the other song is a Rick Ocasek song. So he did this solo record between Shake It Up and what's Heartbeat City? What's the big super hit record? He did a record, and it's him and Greg like I saw this on like Don Kirshner's rock concert or something. He played, and my memory was it was just Rick Ocasek with his guitar, and then Greg Hawkes with his synthesizers all set up. And but there was another guy. There was another guitar player. But I remember seeing this when I was a kid, and I had the record, and it was really amazing to see somebody like that. So that was the first time I had seen something like that. It was probably before Eurythmics. No, it would have been around that same time, but it was a guitar player and a synth guy, right? So it was different than like Eurythmics and Yaz, right? It was that, and I always liked that song. And I played that. I would play that live occasionally, that song, and so I did a new recording of it. Yeah, cover.
Joe Chrisman asks, do you have one of the Fender 6-string basses?
No, I have a Schecter 6-string bass, but not the Robert Smith or Cure Schecter 6-string bass. Yeah, no, I did. I got a Schecter, but it's the same idea. It's like it's a bass 6.
I didn't even know that you had that.
So it's just it looks like a guitar, except everything's an octave lower.
Oh, cool.
And it's shorter scale, I think.
Yeah. That's not what Ian has, like
That's a baritone.
Baritone bass.
Jim has a baritone. Yeah, baritones, somebody else can, I can't remember where that sits. It's in between the two. Or actually it it might have that. There's kind of probably an overlap between a bass 6 and a regular guitar.
Tim Bowers says hi, period, and it's apparently is not going to tell us where he is today. Like it's not important enough. Joe Christmas says Schechter makes great stuff, and Andy Lester asks, how much of a sales spike do you get on Bandcamp Friday?
Sales spike?
Yes.
Well, that's all the sales if I put out a single on that day. But no, and actually it carries over. So I some poster children's. We sold some poster children's stuff, and I sold some TDM stuff. Yeah, and some Salaryman stuff. So we do get a spike.
Yeah, and I think I saw somebody. No, we haven't talked about the Beatles yet, Joe, because I'm still here. Tim is just stateside, boring, but he says your new song rocks, Rick.
Thank you.
It does rock. Oh God, no, I can't remember what I was gonna say. I can't remember. Shoot.
So Bandcamp, yeah. Well, Bandcamp's been sold. One of the other things I found out is that Bandcamp turns more of a profit than Spotify, is more profitable than Spotify. So, yeah. And that's because Spotify is vaporware or, startup economy stuff where it's basically speculative. And so people are investing and dumping money into it with the idea that it's going to capture, which it is doing, the whole market for streaming. And then in theory, they're going to raise prices, but I don't see how they're going to be able to do that. So it's whereas Bandcamp actually, shaves off percentage of sales, and so it actually makes more money, but it got sold to yet another company, and so we'll see what happens with Bandcamp. It's a little worrisome, but it is the last sort of functional music economy.
Yeah,
it's not. But
okay,
last.
all right. So,
but it's a functional music economy, right? And that you can actually I don't make a lot of money, but I make the money back that I spent, putting. It doesn't cost that much to put a record up on streaming now, but you
made enough money to buy a Schecter.
No,
Okay.
I didn't. I don't make that much money, but I make enough money to keep putting things up, paying to put things up on streaming.
So
I make at least $10.
Yeah, that's great.
No, I make more than that, but it's not that much more.
Do you make like $30?
I don't know. I'd have to look back.
That's cool.
But,
well, can I say something though?
Yes.
So Spotify versus Bandcamp. Spotify is still streaming, even though you get to. It's funny because even though you get to choose it, you get to choose whatever you play, it still feels like it's streaming. Whereas Bandcamp feels like you download the song, right?
But you can stream on Bandcamp,
yeah.
And so you can once you purchase, or well, it depends on how people set it up. So people can set it up so that the digital, right? Like I think I have a 3-play limit on my stuff, all our stuff that's up on Bandcamp, right? But you can stream off of Bandcamp. They just added playlists and stuff.
But it generates a different type of royalty, or
doesn't generate a royalty, although. No, because in theory you're posting your own. That's a good question. I don't know.
Wait, so you're posting your own stuff,
but
it is out on what's your publishing company?
Random Hut.
Right. So that's going to generate a royalty
for the downloads
for songwriting.
You get the money.
Yeah.
For when somebody pays for downloads, there's no. Yeah.
There should still be
But then the streaming side, the assumption, I guess, is that you're allowing people to stream it. So if somebody buys a download or buys a physical copy of the music and then they get the digital through Bandcamp and then it streams, I should probably look into that.
You should.
All right, the details of that.
Yeah.
Because in theory, I think that idea then is that the streaming then is not. It's not like a streaming model like Spotify because you're basically giving people access to listen. Like I can stream other people's music on Bandcamp, but they might have limits on how many times I can listen to it.
Right. Yeah. So that's like a third tier, right? So there's the one thing is the listening to it on Pandora when you kind of don't have control. That's like listening to it on the radio.
Or free Spotify, right? With ads and it mixes up. Yeah, it's not on demand.
Right, not on demand. It
Yeah.
just happens to you, and so that's like radio. But you get paid. You get paid. The songwriter gets paid for that, and the I believe, and also the instrumentalists, the people who performed on it, get paid.
Performance royalty.
Yeah. There's both. Yes, there are both.
Yeah,
It's
that's ASCAP and
chapter
BMI.
11.
Yeah.
But it's also
CSAC.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there's also little mechanical royalties in there too.
That's right.
Right? No, maybe not. Maybe there
For
isn't.
radio, I can't remember.
No, yeah, I can't.
It's so confusing.
It is so confusing. So anyway, but that's you listen to the radio, or you or it comes to you like via Pandora, and then there's the Spotify or the Apple iMusic. There's no iMusic anymore, right, or whatever that's called, right? There's
I'm
but
not
there's
sure.
downloading. Yeah. There's you downloaded the song and you can listen to it anytime you want, like you own a copy of it, which is kind of the same as you buying a physical copy of the record. So that generates a mechanical royalty, but also a songwriting royalty. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Well, it sounds
It's
like
so
you do.
it's Apple Music exists. Andy's saying yeah.
Yeah, Apple Music, but I like the download.
There.
Can you still buy downloads from Apple? You can, right? Yeah.
Probably. Okay, so, and Andy's talking about he uses Apple Music versus Spotify, and we went back to Spotify for whatever reason, and
Because
Tim
they
Bowers is
canceled
waiting.
our Apple Music by accident, or there was some kind of glitch and canceled it, and then on top of it, the podcasting stuff. Yeah, we just wound up going back to Spotify last month.
Even though Hitler podcasts through there, right? Or
Well,
some terrible thing.
his contract's up, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, so anyway, Tim Bowers is under the impression that we're about to talk about the new Beatles song. Let's talk about AI first.
You just want to procrastinate. You want to. I don't know. I think it might be a better transition just to talk about this Beatles thing, but it might
go
take
ahead.
up a lot of time.
No, I don't care. Yeah, that's the people want to hear the Beatles. So
That's true, they do.
explain what happened here, because half of them are dead, right? 2 out of the 4 of them, or there 4 of
Yeah,
them.
there were 4,
Okay, good.
unless you count Murray the K.
Who?
He was the 5th Beatle.
Oh, right. Okay, and then there was one that got sent away first before Ringo Starr became the drummer, right?
Pete Best.
Yes. Or is that the band? Is that the Beach Boys?
The Beach Boys, no. Beach Boys.
I knew the thing about the drummer. That's really good. Oh,
That
and
is good.
Andy's saying that you guys are listening. All right, go ahead, talk about it. Have you thought about using AI to make a poster children's song? Have you thought that we haven't been? Mike Markowski's all the bigwigs are listening in because it's a Saturday. That's so nice, guys.
Well,
I'm sorry you don't have
did,
anything better to do.
Like a year ago, you generated poster children lyrics, right?
Oh yeah, but Rick didn't use them. Did you?
And
You didn't
then
use them, right?
I've been looking at voice, sort of open source ways of processing your voice. Basically building a voice model.
Rick really likes that auto tune, and he wants to auto tune his voice, but he wants to use open source. Oh, Conan just did a Protonic with Gary Floyd of the Dicks. I want to know from you, Conan, is who have you tried to get who you couldn't get? Who said no to you? Write that in here.
People probably don't say no; they just ignore, right? Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I played around with some of the AI stuff, but it's like
Henry Rollins, that motherfucker, really? He said no? Asshole. You even got Ian, right? Did you get, oh, maybe you didn't get Ian to talk on there. I can't remember now. Penn Rawlings.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm not paying close enough attention to. Well, they probably had a reason to say no. Okay, go ahead.
The
AI poster children.
Yeah.
We've used Photoshop and other like apparatuses to create our cover art.
Well, we generated that T-shirt design.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
Pat
we did.
Bali
Yeah.
T-shirt design.
It
Yeah.
was so really weird. Yeah, you did. He did get in. So the weird thing about the Pat Bali T-shirt that we had out there, that you did a beautiful job generating that AI. It was
Thank
gorgeous,
you.
and I screened it. But people and we were selling it in Chicago, and yeah, around the Midwest, we were selling it at shows, and people came up, and they and said, "What does this mean?" And I said, "Oh, it was generated by an AI." And they were like, "Ha, that's hysterical." And then at some point I realized they don't believe me. They think it's a joke. And I said to the guy, "No, it really was. It really was generated by an AI." And the guy was like, "Wait, you're serious? Oh my God, I have to buy one now." People were like, "Oh my God."
And what I like about that is it's the in-between. So, I mean, a year or two from now, there's really, or even now, actually, the glitchiness is almost gone, right? So that whole Pat Bali thing and, having it kind of do pretend words,
Yeah, I love that. The
Yeah.
fact it said so. It doesn't. It was at the time when would you use Midjourney or what did you use?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah, it was at the time, and maybe it's still the case that where Midjourney knew to make letters, but it didn't know words, right? So that's what you got. You got it said Pat Bali, and that was the name of the space kid.
Yeah.
was
Well, it was
beautiful
to
thing.
make it look like a 60s comic book, I think. What was the prompt? I don't know.
Yeah,
It
the
took a lot
prompt
of
is on
tweaking.
the T-shirt too.
Anyways, so yeah, the Beatles single. So the thing about it is there was AI talk, but really, and I guess there was a little bit of machine learning involved. So what happened was there were 3 demos, cassette demos that Yoko Ono gave Paul McCartney or the surviving Beatles in 25 years ago? Has it been, or it's more than that, 30 years ago? And so when 3 of them were still alive, they used those cassette demos and they created 2 new songs with them playing along with John Lennon, right? In 1990s technology, right? So they kind of filtered his voice and kind of processed it. It sounds kind of weird, but it was like cassette demos, him sitting at a piano playing, right?
Wait, okay, what was on the demos? It
So
was
the song "Free as a Bird."
okay.
What's the other one? Real.
I'm sure
Can't
somebody will
remember
tell
what it
you.
is.
But
they
that
came out
was,
on the anthology collections in the 90s, right? So Ringo Starr, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison played along. They edited. They kind of these cassette demos of songs. Real Love, right? Yeah, that's what it was called. And then there was a third song called Now and Then. See, I've already
Pat
forgotten.
Bali.
No, yeah. And they tried playing along and kind of salvaging that, and it was just not. It was there was TV in the background. The piano was too loud, right? So it was just cassette, basically cassette recorder sitting on the piano. John Lennon singing in 1979 or something.
And so
sketches.
okay, so they couldn't really tell what the song was.
They could. You can tell what the song is, but
okay.
what they couldn't do is that it wasn't this third demo. They couldn't separate the vocals enough, and also, actually, the reality is that so the story, the other story is that George Harrison was like, "This song's shit. This isn't even a finished song." And so they tried working on it for an hour, right? They did the other 2 songs. Kind of built them out of these demos, added to the demos, but then this last one, yeah, it was just like, oh, this is crap. George Harrison apparently played acoustic guitar along with it. They tried it out, and then they gave up. Then what happened is 30 years later, right? All the technology has changed,
and the bar has dropped. So
well,
that
now
the
you
song
can
is
separate.
not shit now.
So a lot of these new Beatles mixes that Giles Martin, George Martin, their producer's son, has been doing. And then that Get Back, the Let It Be sort of documentary footage that Peter Jackson, they used this machine learning stuff to start separating out audio tracks, right? So like voice from live instruments, like the live recording, like the Nagra recorders that they had, for the documentary footage, and then they started using it on the audio tapes too, right? To start separating out instruments So you can do that now. You can have a recording with bass and drums and guitar and run it through algorithm, and it'll separate out them and make them into multi-tracks, right? So they've been doing that with these Beatles records lately. They'll have a remastered version, but then they'll also have a remix that Giles Martin has done, where they've gone and they've separated everything out, and then he makes it sound better, right? Or contemporary, whatever.
So yeah, I know that was my question. So the contemporariness of Beatles recording, does that go along with it, or does it just look like
that's the thing
when you see young Harrison Ford when you don't want to be seeing him?
Well, I feel like that's more like what was going on with like the John Lennon songs that they turned into Beatles songs, like the 90s stuff, right? Kind of has that, a little bit of that, but it's not computer. It's just kind of like, it sounds a little weird. But the mixing, no, I mean, the mixes are good. They don't sound modern, like, it doesn't sound like a Taylor Swift record, but even the remasters that happened 20 years ago, whatever, like just that Ringo and Paul McCartney approved the remasters of some stuff, those are super bass heavy and you could hear the kick drum and the bass on them, and it was like, okay, these guys, which is good, I guess, but it's like, they don't sound, when the remastering had already started moving into, let's make this sound more contemporary. Let's actually be able to hear the bass and kick drum, and so they were already doing that. And then now these remixes, it's like, they're in, sort of more, they're not in Beatles stereo, they're in, or 60s stereo, they're, and they sound more compressed and present, and because they've used all this technology. Anyways, they ran this cassette demo through the machine, and were able to separate out John Lennon's vocals from the piano and the TV in the background, right? And so then they just kind of cobbled it together and chopped it up and used the George Harrison guitar that he spent 1 hour playing along with that demo, and said, this is bullshit, 30 years ago.
And now he's okay with it because he needs money?
He's dead.
Oh, he's
George
dead.
Harrison's
That's right.
dead.
I'm sorry.
His wife's okay with it.
Yeah, okay.
Yoko Ono's the one who gave them the cassette demos. And then, and so then Ringo recorded drums over it, and Paul McCartney recorded bass and piano and vocals, and they also flew in vocals from other Beatles songs in the background, so they built this new Beatles song.
Yeah, that's okay. So not that I care at all, but I in case somebody asks me, the cassette,
maybe your music business class.
I know,
right?
I'll tell them, ask Captain Rick. The cassette. So you did it sound like you couldn't make out the melody?
You could.
Or you could.
Oh, yeah,
okay, you
but,
could. That's
but
what
it's like,
but it's
in old school kind of analog realm, shenanigans. It, like think of like The Conversation, right?
Yeah,
where
I am thinking of that.
Where
okay.
he's going through and he's
The
filtering
movie.
out frequencies,
Right,
and getting
right.
voices come out.
Yeah.
It's like you can do some of that,
Yeah.
and so that was the
because
problem.
They didn't want to regenerate the voice or have
They couldn't.
Sean Lennon sing it or
Right,
whatever.
exactly.
They didn't want to do that, and they also didn't want to regenerate the singing voice.
Right.
And they
So they
didn't
did not do that. Although, what it did sound like is the machine learning algorithm actually that's doing the separation. It does sound like they've run all of the Beatles' voices through this, and they have kind of a map of what their voices sound like, and so that's used in order to sort of as a template for extracting. So when you start extracting, this. Because so it's like, like how to decide, is this the piano or is this the voice, is this the television? And it's like, this kind of fits the parameters of John Lennon's voice that we've learned from all the other songs that we ran through it.
And there's like a Hard Fork episode on this, isn't there? Is that
there?
Where, I think that
I
heard
they talk about AI generated stuff.
I heard a little bit about the extraction of this.
And so I wouldn't call it AI. So they're not generating John Lennon's voice, right? They're extracting it. Yeah. So it's not 100. It's not cheating.
Yeah, it's not AI at all. It's processing. It's extracting. It's extracting the sound from it's like almost, what do they call that? Like after somebody dies and like you're going through, it's like an autopsy of sound or something, or that's not the word, but yeah.
It is more that's actually, somebody did say that. It's more archaeological.
There it is.
Like separating out like separating the
Data.
fossil from the bedrock or whatever around it, right?
Perfect.
It is
Yeah.
like that. That's
Yeah.
what it's like.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
and
more
then
complicated
and then
because
restoring
they're
and then they restored the fossil afterwards.
It's more like if in Star Trek you got transported into a building, into a wall, and then they're able
away.
to extract you from the wall, right?
Yeah.
Because I just watched an episode where they actually mentioned that.
Was it a new?
No. It was the original series. They said, there's a risk that they don't use the transporter within the ship, and they were going to transport someone within the ship.
Oh my God, they got.
And then they talked about there's a risk that you could wind up in a wall.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it has to be done very accurately. But I'm kind of like, you know what? I don't think so. That's a great thing. But now if you think about it, it's like if you have got this technology and you can transport someone down to a planet, I think you can transport them to the next room without. Yeah. I mean, it would be just as risky, wouldn't it?
I wonder if you would. Okay, so if I was programming a transporter, I would probably program something to test the, like you do a 3D model of the person first, and then you figure out where you're transporting to, and then you just test to make sure that there's room there. Yeah.
So the bigger question is, and we can talk about Star Trek too, because that's kind of what they did to Star Trek, right? Is those episodes we were watching, right? They've replaced a lot of the special effects. They've also
I didn't know. They've
also done transfers off of the film.
The old Star Treks?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense.
Didn't you see that? Yeah, we
I
were
was
talking
looking
about it.
I was like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, they've.
How did Jabba the Hutt get?
Yeah, exactly.
get in there?
Jabba the Hutt situation, right? So this has been going on, but somebody asked the question. Might have been Joe. Was like, what would we do that with our own stuff? And it's like, I don't think there's any reason, well, because everything's multi-track. But the question, I think it all goes back to the question of remastering, fixing things, going back, re-recording, so that now the Taylor Swift thing, where it's like, apparently it's okay now to do re-recordings of your songs, right? Because
that's crazy. That I was talking about that in music business. Like if you're signed to a major label, or I don't know, any label, and then the label's paying for you to record a bunch of songs. Like let's say the label's paying for us to record Daisy Chain Reaction songs. Then if we don't like that label and we want to record, like they get popular or something, and we're like, we're only getting 13% on every record sold with every Daisy Chain Reaction record. Why don't we just re-record it and sell our own Daisy Chain Reaction? And you can't do that.
You can. There was a clause in our contract. That's what happened with Menthol, right?
Okay.
I think it's 5 years. There's you
a
can't
waiting
re-record and release studio. It was in contracts, so that was, I believe, with Menthol. That's why they had to wait 5 years,
right?
Or whatever it is. There was always something built in the contract that you can't re-record the songs, the masters that were under that contract for a little while.
Yeah,
and that's what Taylor Swift did too. That's why I think this new 1989 record is out now, and it wasn't out because of when the other ones came out. It's because of that probably that contractual
time radius clause.
Yeah. But before it was always kind of like cheesy. It was like, it's like you'd find a record and it's like, I want to, like, what's his name? I'm trying to remember who it was. The guy, I wish I could remember his name. It's such a cheesy record, but it's like, I wanted to hear, I heard the original recording of it, and then I bought a CD, and it was him. He had done re-recordings, and it was, I would always look to make sure, but you'd find, but that was usually because, the original singers, got paid $50, or the original songwriters, right, got paid $50 and never made any money off of it, never made the publishing. And so if you do a re-recording, and then you would start getting those royalties. Anyways, so, but this is a little different, I guess, with the Beatles. It's kind of the idea too, though. It's like, and it was the 500 Songs guy made the point that it's getting harder and harder to find. Like, you can't listen to it's getting it. I mean, there are millions of copies of like Sgt. Pepper on vinyl, right? The original sort of mix and sound, but it's like getting harder and harder to find those originals and those original, like especially digitally, right? And so what's happened is though these remixes or remasters replace the originals, and so the question is that valid, right? And I don't know. I mean, it's understandable that you would improve, I guess, records to sound more modern. Well, that's the thing is like, or just to, it's finding the in between sounding like the original or still capturing the original sort of feel and era, but also bringing it up to speed so that when that song plays on a Spotify, it's on a playlist, right? It doesn't sound completely out of place compared to, anything recorded in the past 30 years.
That's
right?
Okay. So my question is, when that cassette was recorded, what label were they on? And does that label own that song then?
So this was John Lennon demo, 1979. So he owned that. And so Yoko Ono, and I think he has I think it's, I'm not sure what the songwriting credit is. I think Paul McCartney added a bridge or something into this song, so maybe it's a Lennon McCartney composition now. But it would have been, Lennon, he put out a record in 1980, right? 80, yeah, right before he was shot. That was his. That was Geffen. That was on Geffen, but I don't think the demos, right? So those were just Yoko Ono had them and gave them, yeah. And so those probably then I don't know.
Nobody argued. And so the Taylor Swift, who put out the Taylor Swift record, the new one?
Taylor Swift is putting out those records. So the thing is that somebody, what's the evil manager guy that everyone's leaving, right? Bought the masters for all of her records, and she wanted them back or something. And anyways, so she's re-recording all of her albums, and she owns those masters, or her company.
And so,
right?
And why did you tell me the other day that you needed to buy that one of those, or you needed?
I just need to listen to it because somebody said that there's some audio problems, like you can hear like a buzz through inner vocals. So that's the thing about modern vocal production is it's super compressed, and so if there's any kind of noise within the vocal take, once you super compress it, you can start hearing that noise. But something went wrong. I still haven't listened. I need to do a critical listen to. Apparently, there's a thread on like the engineering forums where it's like, am I the only one who hears this? And then a bunch of people are like, oh my God, I thought I was crazy. I was going through my gear. They were trying to figure out where this noise is coming from. So it sounds
so exciting.
Sounds like they half-assed somebody, sort of screwed up the final mix or the mastering or the vocal take was, she did it on an iPhone or a computer. People do that now. The people record their vocals on their iPhone and they can, squash it and compress it and auto-tune it to the point where it sounds fine. It's weird.
Yikes. All right. So what else? What else you got? What have you been watching? Have you seen any movies? Did we talk about Killers of the Flower Moon?
I don't know. Did we? I think we must have.
We must have.
Oh, I've got my archive here. Let's see. We did.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. I rewatched all of The Handmaid's Tale, which was like rewatching, or was like watching all of the Clone Wars, I rewatched the whole thing just because my mom and sister are watching it for the first time, so. But you know what I like about it? It's not, see, you didn't make it past the second season, and I understand why. It's just, it feels like you're just constantly being slapped in the face.
I also feel like you can see the characters making decisions that are based on longevity or long-term. Like, so what's really interesting a lot of times is you get these first season shows and nobody's sure if it's going to, or they kind of just go all out and they'll have things happen to the characters but also it'll kind of all work together cohesively.
Right.
And what I felt when I was watching the second season is like, oh, this character is not making a choice based on her character. It's based on season 3.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I could totally see you thinking that. Yeah, because she goes back. She goes back. But
there's an argument for doing that, because Lost is the prime example where Lost started out as just they were just freaking throwing everything in there, and it's like, oh, we don't need to explain this. It's just like a crazy stew of just random stuff, and then it was like, oh, we've got to start something. We got to do something. We got to start stitching this together. We're going to have and then they had to say we got to have an end to this. We got to know when it's going to end, because we can't keep. We have to have something to be able to start tying the knots together. But it was just like, yeah, it's and I just felt on shows like that, when I see that happen, yeah, and it was just kind of like, okay, so this show is just turning into, it's going to be kind of like, we're going to show you terrible things. We're going to do terrible things to these characters. The characters are going to do terrible things or make terrible decisions. And I don't have a problem with a character, that makes bad decisions, but it's just kind of like, oh, all of a sudden it doesn't make sense, or it feels like it's like a soap opera. It's soap opera. When it switches to soap opera dynamics, which is that dynamic where it's just kind of like, oh, okay, you're going to make this decision, and then like a year later, we're going to make this person the good guy. Oh, this person's dead. Oh no, they're going to have a twin, and the twin's going to show up, and it's like that's where it's kind of like the soap opera bullshit plot stuff to kind of just keep things moving. That I hate that. I love soap operas. I used to watch All My Children, and that I loved it. In that respect, it's like, oh, it's fun and everything like that. But I feel like a drama that I'm investing, and it's not, oh, just, like a soap opera, I could watch it on Tuesday and Thursday, and then everything else is just kind of like treading water, right? It's like you can see the dynamic of the narrative, and every day, they'd move the narrative a little bit forward, but it was like, oh, the only things really only happened on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then everything else was like, oh, and it was more like I don't know, like candy or something. It wasn't like a real story that would have an arc. Sorry, I talked all over your Handmaid's Tale. So that's why I didn't like it. Second season, I think whatever it was, right? It was something, she made some kind of decision about her kid, right? I can't even remember.
At the end, she decided to go, she could get out, and she decided to go back.
Yeah, I thought that was bullshit.
Yeah.
And I understand why. It's like, oh, well, what would season 3 be if she left?
Well, she can. I watched it this time. I rewatched the whole thing, and so she was saying, well, and she did get out the 4th season, and so the 4th and 5th season she's out. So they did fine. So the reason, but maybe she felt really, really guilty that she was leaving her kid behind, and she felt like she couldn't go back to her husband without her kid. And stuff like that, and she was like apologizing and crying, and saying, "I can't, I'm sorry, I didn't come back with her," and stuff like that. And so, she and it is terrible things that kept happening to people. But I was talking, I think I was talking to my mom and sisters or something today. I'm been eating cakes for the past 2 weeks, kind of like eating more cakes. And how all of a sudden a cake appears in front of you and you're like, oh, yum. Oh, this cake is so good. And so you're like, I just have to eat this cake, because how often does a cake like this come up in my life? You know what I mean? Like, I'm on a diet, but there's this cake, so I got to eat it. And so, it's been 2 weeks of that, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to have an ice cream sundae because, I just bought more chocolate syrup and stuff. And then I was trying to, today I decided, instead of eating extra things, I made a decision to not eat, more non-diet stuff. I decided I'm going to have hibiscus tea instead. That's what I'm going to drink. I'm going to drink it out of the special cup. And it's going to be just it's going to be just as much of a celebration for me as eating this chocolate cake. You know what I mean? Or eating a bagel or something. Even bagels are, it's not the right time for me to eat a bagel in the morning, right? I can't do that. Like if I want to lose weight, I can't do that, right? So it's like, okay, I've got this special thing, and I need to tie it in my mind to it being a good thing that I have to do that. We were talking about like the sad salad, like, oh, you have to eat a salad, that's so sad, and like just trying to turn it around in your mind so that it's a happy thing. Like this is like instead of me saying, I deserve this, my dad just died, I deserve to eat a cake, and this is going to make me feel better and stuff, and I deserve this, instead of saying I deserve this, I want to be saying I deserve to drink this nice tea. I deserve to drink this hibiscus tea and feel better. I deserve to be happy and healthier and stuff, instead of I deserve to have this, right? And then I was thinking about like so one of the things in The Handmaid's Tale is, the premise is that there's no children being born anymore. And also the premise is that people forsook the fact that they had children, and like they worked instead of taking care of the kids and stuff like that. And they left them in the daycare, and then there's even like the horror of horrors that the main character did at some point. Sorry, spoiler alert, that she, her kid was sick one day, it had a fever, and she like gave her, medicine so she could put her in the daycare, like to put her fever down so she could, so she could do her work, so she could go to work. You know what I mean? And that's like the worst, that's why like that, and then all the plastics and all the all the food additives that we have, and all of the pollutions and stuff outside are starting to make people infertile, right? And that happens in a movie too, right?
The Children
right?
of Men.
So in Gilead, the evil, horrible place that had rebelled against America and has taken over, the women, like, you make your own bread, you make your own food. Everything is like it's all green. They even use the term green, but everything is handmade. Everything, nothing has like preservatives, nothing has chemicals in it or anything like that.
And this just reminds me again, it's like where I had a problem where it was like talking about Last of Us, and everybody's like, oh, this is reactionary, and it's really, far right kind of thinking, survivalist, and I was like saying, well, no, like, well, it is, but it's like, why do we always have to have, like, why can't we have a future where where everything is, people are living closer to the land, right? Even what was it called? Oh, that great show. I can't remember its name now. The one that nobody watched on HBO with in Chicago and in Michigan with the theater troupe going around in the post-apocalyptic world. And it's like, oh, you have to have these disasters, but it's like, well, why don't we just consciously decide, oh, we're gonna those kind of, it was like the one where the guys had the overgrown kind of like little compound, where it was kind of modern, but it was also, not this kind of capitalist plastic kind of world, right? But it was like, oh, they had to have military grade,
Station
protection.
11.
Station 11.
Gordon's listening.
Yeah. So you need to have a military fortress, right, to keep everybody out. But it's like, well, why don't we just I would love it if my neighborhood, had all the natural lawns.
That's what cottagecore is and stuff, right?
Exactly.
So people are making those decisions now. Is that what it's called?
And I guess there's no reason to watch a TV show about like a utopian future where we're actually not burning the planet and ourselves off of it.
There probably is
right?
a nice... Well, maybe we can make that TV show,
I guess
Rick.
it wouldn't be a TV show and it wouldn't be a story. It would be more like... Yeah, it would be like a PBS show where you've got... and they do have shows like that, right? Where people are living, off the land and homestead or, but it's like...
There it is,
always
there it
winds
is,
up,
homesteading,
But it always winds up getting mixed in with, you got to have your guns and, and always gets mixed in with the apocalypse, like you're a prepper for the apocalypse. And it's like, instead of prepping for a human sort of like, oh, everyone's going to be cannibals and we're going to have to kill our neighbors because they're going to want to take our food. It's like, why don't we prepare for the actual apocalypse that we're creating and, build a world and start focusing on, not causing all of this environmental damage, right?
But
Yeah.
So that's what I was talking. Like, it is interesting when they start talking about the politics of Gilead and stuff like that, where they're and the guy who's the architect, he's like, I was trying to put us closer back to the land and stuff. It's just that I delivered my message through religious freaks, and I didn't realize how much people would actually listen to that part of the message, or how they would take that over and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting. But I mean, I thought it was interesting because the bad guys are, kind of living off the land and stuff like that. Like the bad guys are doing all this non-chemical stuff.
Yeah.
And and then it's in contrast when you leave Gilead and you go to Canada or something like that, and there's cars everywhere and people are kissing each other, and it's like real life again, and there's kids crying all the time, like they show that when you're taking care of your kid, and it's a reality that the kid is crying all the time and stuff like that. There's even they talk about the difference between like breastfeeding and pumping and stuff like that. It's I don't know. It's definitely for the ladies, and not for the men. I can't imagine a man but it's stuff that like I care about. It was really interesting to rewatch again, and the woman who and like at the spoiler alert, like the woman at the end, like kind of the wife becomes a handmaid sort of character,
So
really,
there's another season.
I know, I can't wait.
Yes,
I hope there is.
that's
There's
what I
supposed
was
to be
asking.
another season, but I haven't heard anything about.
So is that 6?
Yeah.
So 6 seasons in a movie?
There's a movie?
No, there is a movie, but
It's from a million years ago,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. I don't know. I just it was fun to rewatch, but now I'm glad I have my life back. But I spent time doing that, Yeah. So that's my media consumption. Whereas you've been using your media consumption time wisely, rewatching the Star Trek episodes. What do you have to say about those?
first off, either I don't remember or I thought I watched all of the original series multiple times.
Yeah, things just keep coming up, and you're like, well, also the Klingons all have like brown face.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
But what about the guys with they had the Oreo cookie guys? That episode with the guys like the black
half and
white,
half, yeah,
half and half
Frank Gorshin.
episode. Like
Yeah.
that's nobody's like that's not a problem.
Well,
It's not.
no. I think
It's interesting,
that was
right?
That was no. It's they were able to use aliens to talk about race, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and so they're good episodes there, but then I'm watching a lot of them. I'm like, wow, a lot of these are really bad, and it's kind of like when I watched Silent Running in college. Like I loved that movie when I was a kid, and then I remember going to see it. This was before. Well, it wasn't before VHS, but like when they would do movie showings on campus, they'd rent a 16 millimeter copy of a film and then raise money or something. And so somebody showed Silent Running, and I was like really excited to see it. And I was like, oh, this isn't as good as I remember it. Now I've kind of come full circle and I like enjoy watching it again. But like at that time I was just like, oh, this movie isn't as good as I remember it. I shouldn't have watched it again. And I'm really feeling that about the Star Trek original series. It's like, oh, wow.
This is bad.
Yeah. And the thing is I understand watching it from maybe a campy perspective too, and I feel like maybe I did that, but I also feel like, oh, you know what? 30 or 40 years ago, there wasn't a lot of good. There wasn't any sci-fi, right? It was just there wasn't a lot of stuff to watch, and so I'm a little disappointed. I guess it's just like, oh,
you're like comparing it to oh my God, what is it called? The really good, oh God, the good Star Wars TV show that just came out. I can't remember what it's called. Andor. You're comparing it to Andor.
No,
which was really good. That was awesome.
Andor. Don't get me started again on Andor.
You liked it.
I liked it.
You liked it. You watched it.
We can talk about it again.
No, I don't want to talk about it.
But it's just like,
yeah.
You can't just cut up your 10-hour movie
that's
into
a stupid thing to argue
into
about.
equal. No, it's not a stupid thing to argue about.
It's a stupid thing to complain about.
It's entirely appropriate. Is like if you are making a serial, and on top of it, a serial narrative that's inspired, that's its original sort of source, or primitive or original content was based on serials too, right? Star Wars, like Buck Rogers or whatever. What's his name? Anyways, it's like, oh, you should have the serial narrative pattern in your episodes.
Yeah.
So that's
right.
yeah.
We're not going to go through that,
Yeah,
but
I complain
so
about that a lot.
all right. Well, I come in and I was looking at the Star Treks and I was like, oh, this is bad. And we're just not used to seeing it like on demand like that.
Yeah, and I guess watching multiple episodes in a row.
But like, would you think you could watch MASH? Like, how when you were younger
Yeah.
and like MASH would be on, or
Yeah.
Doctor Who, you were watching.
Yeah, and
but
Doctor Who, I feel, I'm okay with the cheesiness and
you're not the bar is not. You're just like, that's funny. Look at how stupid
so I don't
that
know
is.
why.
But Star Trek used to, and and I always talk about this. Like, I used to watch when I was little with my dad. We would watch the Pink Panther, and then like I rewatched it. The cartoon,
Yeah.
Like maybe when I was 18 or something, and I was like, what the hell is the matter with both of us? Why were we watching this? And,
Right.
perhaps my dad was high or something, but I wasn't, I don't know. So should I pull my union card or what?
It's we got an hour and 5 minutes. We're not going to talk. I don't think we should launch into that discussion today.
Yeah, I don't think we probably shouldn't launch into it
At all.
All
right. Okay. We made it through.
Write in. Let me know. Tell me what you think.